You're listening to the Teach Better Talk podcast featuring expert educators eager to share progressive tactics to reach more students. Teach Better Talk is created by teachers and fueled by passion. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 41 of Teach Better Talk. I'm Ray Hewart, but you already knew that. What you are excited to hear about is how I'm with the amazing Jeff Gargis.
Hey guys.
Jeff, I went with amazing this time.
I know, I like amazing. I'm good with that. It's a classic.
Yeah, it's better than the last episode, but
It is.
I will brag a little bit that we have a ton in store for this episode before we get to all of the fun that I am so confident we're going to have. Jeff, how are you doing?
Ray, I am doing awesome. The world is beautiful out right now with all the snow everywhere here in Northeast Ohio. Even though flights have been canceled and travel plans have been crazy, it's still been a beautiful day. Super excited. I love doing these podcast episodes. It's just so much fun. We talked about it all weekend and we talk about it a lot, but I say it every time, but I just love doing these podcasts. We get to talk with some amazing educators. And tonight is no different. We have an amazing educator and I'm super excited to have this guy on. Dr. Neil Gupta is with us tonight. Neil serves as the Director of Secondary Education for Worthington City Schools here in Ohio. And in Worthington, Dr. Gupta actually oversees the middle school and high school programs, and he actually leads the academic and safety work at the building principals and works with them on that. Let's see, he's done I can go forever with this guy. So he's served on a whole bunch of different local and state committees. He also serves on the board of directors for the Ohio Association of Secondary School Administrators Association, and that is a mouthful. He's also a member of the National Association of Secondary School Principals and the American Middle Level Education Association. And if you need one more, he also is a member and a consultant with ASCD. He's presented all over the place at state, national, international levels of anything from leadership to assessment to coaching. And he also, in all of his spare time, he co-moderates a weekly Twitter chat. It's #LeadUpChat. It's every Saturday morning. Super excited to have you on, Neil. Really appreciate you taking some time to hang out with us, have fun with us, share your story, and just spend some time with us. So how are you feeling right now?
Man, I'm feeling good after kind of hearing this introduction.
That's what we go for, man. I want to get you jazzed up, ready to rock, right?
I can do that every week. Just kind of pump me up right before going to work tomorrow.
Give me a call in the morning. I'll take care of it. I got it here. I got my script. I'm ready to go.
No, Jeff, you got to get on Voxer. Then you could talk to him every morning.
You just need me to Vox that to you like every morning, Neil?
Voxer is the place to be.
Okay.
For sure.
Very cool.
That's so funny. Well, Neil, I know that Jeff gave you a really great introduction, but there is absolutely no way that every time someone asks what you do, you say all of that. So let's go back to reality. When you bump into somebody on the street or meet a new person and they ask what you do for a living, what type of response do you typically give?
So I get to serve as the Director of Secondary Education in Worthington Schools. It's a suburb of Columbus, about 11,000 students, and I get to work with our amazing middle school and high school principals, our school counselors, and just kind of whatever needs done. It's definitely a team effort when it comes to things that talk about safety and academic achievement. We've got a lot of leaders at the district level and at the building levels, and so I just try to serve as being responsive for them. If they have questions, trying to interpret as much as I can from the state level and any kind of rules or policies and get information back. And then also, it's about coaching, right? It's about just kind of listening to them, kind of figuring out how to get through maybe some things that are going on, maybe with some student behaviors, or sometimes when parents are having some confusion and questions, and just trying to work through some of those things that may not be written down necessarily in a playbook, but kind of working through ththose things one-on-one or in small groups to kind of overcome some obstacles.
I love it. And, Neil, you've done a lot of things. You work with a lot of different, so you get the opportunity to engage with a lot of your different teachers in the buildings that you work with. You've also been around doing this for a while, a lot of experience, a lot of different positions and on boards and things like that. So I know there's been a lot of experience there, a lot of ups and downs, I'm sure, all around that type of stuff. We love talking about failure on this podcast because we love learning from it. So can you take us to a time that you've had a failure in your life, kind of tell us what happened and how it made you feel? And then more importantly, how did you overcome that? And then what did you take away from that experience?
Yeah. So, we don't have that much time to go through all of the failures that I've learned from. So, I think one that came early on in my career as an administrator was, this idea about when I talk about being responsive and really trying to help lead through things. And I always like to be somebody about process and organized. I was a high school math teacher. So, I think about it from that analytics standpoint. And when I think about an initiative, I sometimes, kind of sit, and you're going to laugh. I sit at central office, and I sometimes think about, how can I help be as clear as possible? And so an example of that was when I was in my first district, and we were working on common formative assessments. So working on these horizontal assessments that would be used at all grade levels and, across all departments and courses. And we'd take a look at these assessment results that we'd give, 4 times a year, gather the results back, do some analysis with it in a cohort sense with teachers, and make some actions. Man, it sounds great. And so in my attempt of being very, very, very clear, it's possible that we can be too tight. There's some research out about tight coupling and loose coupling. And I think I was too tight in really making sure that this was even before the why, the whole statement and concept about, first start with the why, that really I was really purposeful in the what of how to do the nuts and bolts of these common formative assessments. So it was maybe like 30 steps on how to do it. And so I remember one day in particular, I was waiting for the results to come in, and I thought, let me go to the buildings and let me see what's going to happen. And so I walked into the first classroom, and one of the classrooms, the students were walking in. They already knew what was going to happen that day. It was about these formative assessments, and the kids were already walking in. They were sitting down. They were putting their stuff away. They were getting ready for these assessments. The teacher had kind of prompted them and explained to them the purpose of it, and so they were organized and they were ready for it. I walked next door into the next classroom, and students are walking in, and the teacher's asking, or the students are asking the teacher what they're going to do that day. And the teacher says, oh, we got to do this thing that the district wants us to do. We're going to hurry up and get that done so we can get back to, our yesterday's assignment. So the kids were, kind of demotivated by that kind of statement. They haphazardly took this assessment in like a couple minutes. The teacher quickly picked up the papers and they moved on to the lesson. And at that moment, I realized that, even again, before the concept of start with why, I realized that I could have sat at central office and not realized and got these results back and probably created a whole bunch of conversations about how the students weren't learning and the students weren't doing this, and how, we're not really meeting the needs of kids, and start changing educational practices, when I had to take 20 steps backward and say to myself, we really didn't do a good job of helping to explain and walk through kind of the purpose and why we're doing these things so that students and teachers could be ready for them. So it really helped me to kind of see that. And we had to kind of really go back to square one. But it was a great learning lesson for me that I take with me when I go and think about other projects and initiatives that we're trying to do.
Yeah, and so many things in there. I love the fact that you had to find a connection, the purpose for why they had to do those things, but then also that you reflected back on what had happened and took that step back and realized, okay, this could have been a bad thing, because I could have seen the results of this without ever knowing why the results were maybe worse than they could have been. And so I think two big pieces to pull out of there is the fact that you reflected back on a mistake you made and how you could be better in the future, but also that, Ray talks about it all the time, the purposeful. Everything in your classroom needs to be purposeful. It has to have a meaning. It has to be connected to that why. And that's such a big piece. So I enjoy that story a lot. I appreciate you sharing that with us. Now I want to kind of flip it the other way around. So let's talk about a success you've had. And this can be something big, something small. But tell us what happened. Why was it a success for you? And then what did you take away from that?
Yeah, so I would say it's in our current work right now. In our district, again, there's great leadership there. And I get to work with our chief academic officer, Angie Adrian. And we have a good problem in Worthington. We've got growth. We've got students and we're increasing in our size. I've been in districts where it's been decreasing, and that's tough. And but in this situation, it means that we have space issues, and so we're working right now through a process where we're going to have our sixth graders that are currently in our elementary schools be in our middle schools, and so we're going to have 6-8 middle schools in the coming years. And so to prepare for that, there's a lot of things. There's there's the facility part to it. There's a master schedule that goes along with it. There's staffing that has to happen. And you could imagine even the little things that are big for students and families, like traditions. What traditions are going to happen, and are they going to continue to happen, and what building were they going to happen in, what grade levels? So I think for me, a great success was, and it could have been a failure. So, but luckily I had some good coaching for me. We have 11 elementary schools. And I remembered, that we had done some work in trying to create a learner's profile. We wanted to create what is our philosophy of middle school, and we thought that would be a good driver for us to be able first before we go into creating a schedule, is if we understand, what's our middle school philosophy. And so we did some work where we started working with a small group of teachers to think about what this learner's profile could look like. We went to our current middle schools, our grade 7-8 teachers, and we asked them all kinds of questions and gathered feedback from them. And we have 4 middle schools, so that felt like it was easy to do. And again, in my process of trying to be as efficient as possible, back last spring, I asked our chief academic officer. She asked me. She said, "When are we going to talk to our 6th grade teachers?" And I said, "Oh, I've got an idea for us to have 2 after-school meetings at our district office, and we'll go ahead and have them come to our district office." I mean, isn't that great? I'm giving them 2. I'm giving them an option to come either to day 1 or day 2 of these after-school meetings. So we're going to gather feedback from them in our middle school philosophy. And Angie said, "No, we're going to go to their schools, and we're going to talk with them." And I paused, and I had to remind her, as if she didn't know, we have 11 elementary schools. That's 11 after-school meetings, Angie. Are you sure we're going to do that? And she said, "Yeah, we're going to do that." So I went ahead and we scheduled to meet with 11 of them. I went back to her and I said, "I've got this scheduled, or I've got this agenda. We got to create this agenda before we go. What kind of agenda should we create?" She said, "We're not going to create an agenda. We're going to go. We're going to sit. We're going to listen. We're going to ask them what their hopes and their fears and their dreams are." And that's been the most powerful learning that I've had, I think, in a decade at least, or all of my teaching career. Going into these small groups, going into their schools instead of them coming to the district office level. I don't know if they would have been comfortable coming, all 11 elementary schools coming to 2 days. I don't know if they would have had the trust built in with each other or with me. But for us to be able to go to those elementary schools in their small groups, in their environments, and then to walk in with really nothing, just a clean sheet of paper that we're going to take notes on. At first, the first group, kind of said, "What are we going to talk about?" And we sat down. We said, "We want to talk and listen to you, and we want to hear kind of what your concerns and questions and hopes are for this process and what we're going to happen." And it just became real and genuine to us, and it quickly showed to me that there's a logistic sense of what we need to do, but there's also a human side of what we need to do. And there's change for these elementary teachers that probably had been in these elementary buildings for maybe their whole career, and now there was possible change that was going to happen, that they would be going to a different building. And even though it's in the same district, you set up families in those elementary schools, and there's a trust factor. And so we had to reassure them that things were going to be okay, that they were going to be welcomed. We had to hear their questions. We had to listen. And that was tough. But I think the success overall, as we look back and we say that we did that, not because we of any other sense than it really is about making sure that we listen and we hear from people and try to make things as comfortable as possible when we have the ability and time to do that.
Hey, what's up? It's Jeff. Don't worry, we're going to get right back to the episode, but I really want to check out and make sure that you are connected with us on social media. Ray and I and the entire Teach Better team want to connect with you. We want to hear your stories. We want to be a part of your journey. We want to be there to support you in any way we can, and we want to learn and grow with you. So please connect with us. Everything we have is at Teach Better Team. And then, of course, make sure you connect with me at Jeff Gargas and Ray at Ray Hewart. Let's get back to the episode.
Neil, throughout all of our conversations and your stories here, I really appreciate your focus on the why. I mean, obviously, both in both stories separately, right? Finding the why behind your teachers, eagerness to grow, why behind your family's needs to, have some traditions that stay in the school, why behind, changing classrooms in every facet, this consistency of really ensuring that you are reflective and making purposeful choices. It's so cool. And obviously that is echoed so much in the stories you told. You have so much pride in the staff you work with. And I always think that that's so admirable for somebody to carry that with them. So when I change the question for you slightly to ask you what you're excited about in education right now, I'm not going to let you say that it's this focus on growth, because I know that that's a huge thing for you. But what else is getting you excited about education and everything that you're doing?
So, it's a great question, and I think what a breakthrough has been just in the recent month, I would say, is really taking my role in a different direction. Still, I've got to do the day to day things, but the idea, and I've always, I guess, prided myself on coaching and giving coaching tips and coaching opportunities to help other educators or other administrators, both in my district and elsewhere, to kind of help get better at things. But Brene Brown has been somebody that I've just been kind of reading and listening to her a lot of her videos on YouTube on vulnerable leadership. And practicing it is something that's way out of my comfort zone. I'd rather just tell people or kind of walk people through a process and get a process done. But the idea about emotion and the idea about conflict really scares me. And so I decided to practice some of these things in the past couple of weeks, as far as really having critical conversations and really digging a little bit deeper into root cause or root feelings, or some feelings that have been around, I guess, festering for a while. And I think people, and I'm not saying even with me, just, two people that I think that there's some buried feelings that have gone on. And I could have gone in and just said, look, we're going to go this direction and move on. But taking an extra amount of time to say, let's talk a little bit deeper. Let's go a little bit deeper on some things, and let's be vulnerable. Let's think about, where that's coming from, and really let's uncover things, and let's go to a place of healing. And it's been amazing to get the healing that's happened, not only in the meeting and when the meeting concluded, for us to move to a direction, but 3 or 4 days later to get an email or to talk with that person later to say, that was really good. That really helped me. I realized that there was always some piece of me that was holding back, and I wasn't willing to let go, but you helped me do that. And so because of those things, it's again, I don't know if it's going to be any less scary ever. I wonder if that'll ever go away. But the benefit of it is definitely outweighing, those fears, to be able to say that, we're really starting to help people. We're still really starting to kind of move in a better direction, rather than just go ahead and just kind of, passing over, I guess, some of the things that people have been kind of feeling for a long time.
Well, it's really powerful. It really is. That vulnerable leadership is so challenging, but essential to do. So that is very, very cool that you're working on that. You've obviously had some great results so far. Now, I want to shift. I know you've done a lot of coaching and a lot of leadership roles in your past. And something I've always wanted to ask you, so I was really excited to get you on this podcast, was the advice that you have for new teachers. You're a very big leader in the education field, and I've just personally learned so much from our own conversations. And when I think about the direction education's going, I want to make sure that the teachers entering our field, or the teachers that are just getting into their first job, or maybe they've moved school buildings recently, what advice do they need to ensure that they are making the right steps to this more purposeful education that we're building to?
Yeah, that's great. And I do get that question a lot, which is interesting. And it happens. It's interesting. It happens when there's a new teacher. It happens when maybe a seasoned teacher goes into a new position, and, like you said, a new district, a new building. Maybe they're going into administration, and they're asking for that piece of advice. And I guess regardless of any of those things, I think it's going to be to just seek balance, for them not to burn themselves out, to make sure that they can leave work at work as much as they can at times. I know with email and things like that, it gets hard. I remembered that I was part of a hiring team early on, and we were looking for a social studies teacher, and we narrowed it down to 2 that on paper and in the interview, they were pretty much similar. But the last question I remember asking them was separately was, what do you do to relieve stress? And one of them said, I read books, I read books, I read books. And it felt like the canned answer, and maybe it was their real answer. But I also thought, gosh, is that it? Is that all this person has is work, work, work? The other person who we ended up going with said, I run. And the look on her face when she said that just kind of helped, like gave me that. I felt like I could breathe when she said that. And so I think that there's obviously certain energies when somebody gets a new job, they tend to pour into everything because of the newness of it and because of the excitement factor, and I get that, and that's always going to be there. But just making sure that there's block time, that they understand and know there's things about like the law of diminishing return that says that after a while being in the office and working, your productivity actually goes down, and so taking time to kind of see those things out. They have to make sure that they're being fed, and keeping that joy alive. And so if they know what their purpose is, they know why they're doing things, that they know that there's creativity that has to happen. A lot of people sometimes think that in order for them to kind of go to the next level, there has to be the next job. I don't know if that's always the case. I mean, sometimes that's the case, but sometimes it may be just a pet project that you need to have. And it could be both at the school or, at the district level. It could be with just a student that you have that pet project of wanting to kind of work with a student. But sometimes it could be just kind of, blogging. It could be podcasts. It could be reading. Could be even just meeting with other educators from other districts, and reading books to kind of seek that joy out. But and those things are good, but make sure you've got the other part that goes along with it. Go for a run, have a hobby, go out with some friends, but make sure you see balance.
Yeah, finding time for yourself and taking care of yourself is just crucial. And we see it far too often with not just new teachers, but all teachers who they're so passionate about what they do. That is really hard to do. So we were constantly trying to preach that. So I'm really glad that's the direction
Jeff,
we went with that. Yes, ma'am.
What's your hobby?
My hobby?
Yeah, how do you
Just
relax?
Trying to be like you.
Oh, come on. I want to know.
My hobbies outside of working out and running, where I go to is typically either playing guitar or I'm a gamer too. I enjoy playing some video games as well. That's where I go to if I don't do I do workouts and stuff in the morning, but if I need something else, that's where I typically go.
Jeff, are you're like on Fortnite? So my son should be.
No, my son is on Fortnite, and it was funny when he first started playing. He's just 7, and when I let him get it, and when he sort of like challenged me to play, not realizing that his old man was a former gamer, and I wiped the floor with everyone, and he was a little bit like shocked. But no, I don't even get to play much anymore. So usually it's just grabbing the guitar for a couple songs just to kind of let something out for a little bit and go from there. But
Neil, are you willing to share your hobby?
Gosh, I would just say I'm just starting to get back now into exercising. 5 in the morning. I'm calling myself out on public right here. 5:30 in the morning, and it's been working.
Love it.
That's awesome.
It's been the best thing to kind of start off my day, and I hope to keep it going. It's more than the New Year's resolution for me. But yeah, that's kind of what I need to kind of keep myself kind of going.
The best thing I did was back in August, changing it and start getting up at 5 a.m. and getting a workout in. Best thing I've done in a long, long, long time. So.
Well, Neil, the next part that Jeff's about to ask you is about the most stressful part of the podcast. So you might need to go do like an extra workout after this question series.
I'm actually, I wanted to throw one curveball at you here, Neil. I wanted to do something. So, because we have a lot of teachers on it. We don't always get a ton of admin. And there's something that I always love to kind of connect because, we get to work with both teachers and admins and both. And we get to hear the pains on both sides. And there's a lot of different things going on. If there was one thing that you think that you would love as an administrator for the teachers that are down there in the trenches to understand about where you are at and your view and your feelings on things that you maybe don't think, that maybe gets just lost in the shuffle of what you have to do, is the one thing that you just want them to always know, is there something that you would share with them? I know it's a kind of a curveball question. Do you understand what I'm trying to ask you?
I got you. And
all right, cool.
I think it takes time. I mean, maybe, and I don't know how long, I don't know what the magic number is or anything like that, but I may wear an administrative hat, and it may come with a decision that I think may not be what a teacher at a particular time may find that agrees with them or anything like that. But sometimes we are bound by either some policy, or we're bound by sometimes, unfortunately, finances. And so I feel like I'm sometimes the face of maybe when an answer has to be a no. But that doesn't mean my heart doesn't break, or my heart doesn't want to go a different direction. I'm an educator first. I want to do what's best for kids. When you say those taglines and things like that, but at the same time, I feel like, you kind of have that when there isn't that strong relationship. When I was in my first district, I went from, I think, teacher to administrator in the same district. I think that there was still that respect level of, people knew where I came from. And then when you go to another district, they just kind of perceive you as just an administrator. And I want to be able to say, gosh, I know what it feels like, not to 100%. I don't know if I could ever understand being in a classroom today, exactly what they do. That doesn't mean I don't care or don't, kind of feel for where they are at times. And just when a decision, like I said, may not go their way.
That is exactly what I was looking for. It's perfect.
It hurts.
I think from our experience, I feel like sometimes that just gets lost, and sometimes, because of, like you said, because you're bound to certain things, and sometimes that leads to a no, or maybe a decision that doesn't always sit well with everyone. I think that it gets lost, the fact that you're an educator first, you're a teacher first, and you do care, and you do want what's best for them and, and for their students the same way they are. So, like you said, it perfect. I love it. Awesome. All right, so now we're really going to get down to business here, so Ray can stop freaking out over there because she's always nervous at this point. But we're going to do the next 6 questions, and your goal is to answer each one of them in 15 seconds or less. Are you ready to go?
I got it. I'm ready.
All right, here we go. What is one ed tech tool you cannot live without?
So it's Voxer. That's not Twitter for me. It'll be Voxer.
Definitely. I could have guessed that. A great one, though. What's one book that you're reading right now?
So just finished yesterday, The Energy Bus, and got to applaud our superintendent, our district office that has secretaries, treasurer, administrators. We're all reading that book together. Awesome.
That's a great practice. And who do we need to follow on Twitter today?
You guys everybody's got to follow Jennifer Hogan. You can find her at Jennifer_Hogan, Hogan. She's a blogger, lots of energy. If you get a chance to hear her present, you got to go.
Love it. What's the best YouTube channel or website resource for educators?
I don't have one on this one. This one got me.
Do you have a podcast you go to, or somewhere you turn to when you need inspiration or positivity or something?
I'll go there, but I won't. I guess it's not for educators.
That's okay.
But Andy Stanley,
right,
pastor, and he's a leader, and he's just got inspirational nuggets just woven through the podcast that he goes through.
I will take it. That will work. And what is one daily, weekly, or monthly routine every teacher needs to get into?
I would say journaling or blogging. So journaling if they just want to keep it confidential, blogging if they want to make it public, but it's got to be a place for self-reflection. I know for me, it helps to also put things down. I put it out there because it becomes a challenge then when I make it public.
Awesome. And what's the best piece of advice you have ever received?
So I had a professor in post-grad work, and she reminded me to have the skin of an armadillo, but the heart of a marshmallow. And that stuck with me.
I love that. I love that. That's great.
That's like one of my favorite quotes.
Yeah, that's
cool.
definitely up there.
It up. I can't claim it, but yeah, it was good.
Well, Neil, I know that everybody listening will really appreciate your insight, and I want to ensure that they can continue the conversation with you even after listening to this podcast. So would you mind sharing out how our listeners can connect with you?
Absolutely. So you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at Dr. Neil Gupta. So DrNeilNGupta. I'm also on Instagram. I'll definitely friend you or follow you or whatever that you do on that. But usually it's just for family pictures and things like that on there. But that is Neil Gupta 25. And then I write my blogs. And I'll give you the website. It's www.drneilgupta.wordpress.com. And try to put out, a blog a week is what my goal is. But it's got to be for inspiration and not for anxiety or pressure or anything like that. So, but that's been kind of the goal that I've been tracking. And then finally, Facebook. I'm on Facebook still, and that's Neil Gupta.
Awesome. And did you say Voxer?
I am on Voxer, and that's also at, I believe, at Dr. Neil Gupta.
No, you can find him on Voxer for sure. So that's awesome. Appreciate that. And you can find all the links, all the resources, everything we talked about in this episode over at teachbetter.com, as well as all those really important links to connect with Neil. So we'll have all that over there in the show notes. So make sure you head over to teachbetter.com for all of that. Be sure that you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any other of the episodes, because there's a lot of you listening, and I think some of you haven't subscribed yet. So Ray is watching. You want to do it. She sees you. Anyway, so make sure you give us a rating and review. We'd really appreciate that as well. And what I'd really, really appreciate is if you could think of someone right now who whether it's a teacher, a friend, a family member, an admin, whoever, that needs to hear some of the awesome stories these amazing educators are sharing with us every week on Teach Better Talk. Please share this with them. Tell them to come listen. We want to continue sharing these stories, and we could use your help there. So, Neil, really just a huge thank you to you for taking some time and sharing all your experiences and your knowledge with us and having some fun with us, man. We really, really appreciate it and hope to do it again soon.
Sounds great. Thanks. I appreciate both of you for allowing me to be on here.
Thank you. And until next time, let's get out there and let's teach better.